What up nerds, I'm Jay Sharif and today I'm talking about portable hard drives. Is it worth paying extra for smaller, faster, solid-state drives, and do the rugged and waterproof devices perform as well as the regular versions? You're about to find out. Portable USB hard drives are incredibly convenient. You can store many terabytes of data, and if you're a travel vlogger, then you definitely need them. Here's why. Whenever I go traveling, I usually take one camera and one laptop. Normally, that's my DJI Action and my MacBook Air. After a couple of days of filming my adventures, my memory cards will be full. So, until I get home, I need to offload the footage into some secure and reliable storage. My MacBook Air doesn't have enough space, and uploading videos to cloud storage isn't really practical. Even with good internet access, it can take hours to upload larger files. And if you're traveling, then good internet access is very difficult to find. A lot of the time, even expensive hotels have slow Wi-Fi speeds. So, what's the alternative? Simple. Get yourself a portable hard drive. And at the end of every day, transfer the video files from your camera to the storage device. Then, format your memory cards and you're ready for another day of filming. However, a quick Amazon search shows there are a lot of choices. This video will help you decide which products offer the best value for money. Today I'm going to review one traditional USB hard drive and three solid-state drives. All of them are supposed to be rugged to varying degrees, and the SSDs are supposed to be much faster and more reliable. Old school hard drives are often referred to as HDDs, and inside they have a spinning disk that stores your data. That means they make noise and they're likely to go wrong if you drop them. In contrast, solid-state drives have a load of flash memory chips inside. Because they have no moving parts, the SSDs are faster for reading and writing data. SSDs are also smaller, quieter, less likely to break, use a lot less energy, and unfortunately, they're a lot more expensive. All high-spec computers nowadays come with solid-state drives, and all Apple computers use SSD now. Even my 6-year-old MacBook Air has an SSD. The only advantage of hard disk drives is their cheapness. First up, we have this orange monstrosity. It's called the Lacie Rugged Mini. It stores 5 terabytes of data and it will set you back £140 on Amazon. Nowadays, 5 terabytes of data costs about £100. There's two reasons this costs more. Firstly, they've billed it as rugged and water resistant, which definitely appeals to me if I'm throwing this in my suitcase. Secondly, it has a Thunderbolt port. What does that mean? Well, it's all to do with Apple Macs. As you can see, on the side of my MacBook, it has this square-ish hole. That's called a Thunderbolt port, and it's supposed to be a faster way of transferring data when connected to Apple computers. This Lacie storage drive has a Thunderbolt cable built into it. That's why this version is so expensive, because everything linked to Apple devices is ridiculously expensive. Anyway, the Lacie works out at £28 per terabyte. That's about $40 US, and it's pretty damned heavy, weighing 472 grams, so nearly half a kilo. Next, I've got this Sandisk Extreme portable 2 terabyte SSD, and as you can see, it's tiny compared to the orange monstrosity. On Amazon, they sell for £170, which works out at £85 per terabyte. That's about $120 US. The specs say this has a maximum read speed of 550 megabytes per second. Now, specs aren't always honest, but Sandisk do have a great reputation, and this weighs just 42 grams, which means the Lacie 5 terabyte monster is 11 times as heavy as this. By the way, Sandisk is owned by Western Digital, and the third device I'm looking at today is a Western Digital product as well. It's called the WD My Passport It has a 2 terabyte capacity, and this is the 2017 version. There is a newer version that came out in 2020, which is more expensive. However, you can get this one from the Western Digital website for about £200. That works out at £100 per terabyte, so about 140 US dollars. Unsurprisingly, this claims to have very similar specs to the Sandisk version, and since they come from the same parent company, I expect they are both identical inside. And they weigh almost exactly the same too, because the WD drive is just 41 grams. The Sandisk is supposed to be rugged and waterproof, yet only weighs 1 gram more. It's also 15% cheaper. So, here's the obvious question. Why does the WD version cost more? Maybe we'll find out once we run the tests. Moving on, the final device I'll be testing today is from a less famous brand. This is called the Silicon Power Bolt B75. It's advertised as a 1 terabyte SSD. It also claims to be rugged and shockproof, and on Amazon it will set you back £100, which means it has exactly the same cost per terabyte as the WD Passport. It does claim to have similar specs to the WD and the Sandisk. Strangely, it's a lot bigger than these SSD drives. In fact, it's almost the same size as the Lacie. It weighs 107 grams. Straight away, I get the feeling something isn't quite right here. Anyway, these are the 4 devices. So let's get on with the testing, and this will be old school real world testing. I'm not going to use some software to do the work for me. Instead, I'm going to transfer about 20 gigs worth of video files from my computer to each of these storage devices. Then I'm going to transfer exactly the same files back to my computer, and we're going to see how long each process takes. Now, I want it to be as fair as possible. I wanted all of these drives to be tested under the same conditions. So I started by formatting them all in exactly the same way. I closed all the apps and programs on my MacBook. I then turned off the Wi-Fi on this computer. The testing was done in an air-conditioned room, and I let my laptop cool down for 20 minutes in between each test run. Now, all 4 of these devices connect via USB-C, so I also made sure I used exactly the same wire to connect each of them to my laptop. By the way, all 4 of these devices are powered by your computer through the USB cable, so they don't need an external power supply. Just out of curiosity, I'm also going to be testing this. This is my Samsung M3. It's about 7 years old, and it's a 1 terabyte HDD. This is the one I use to store my old YouTube videos, and it does feel quite slow. Anyway, time for the moment of truth. Let's get straight to the results. Let's look at the read speed first. That's basically how quickly my computer can read 20 gigabytes of video files from these hard drives. And here are the results. As you can see from this graph, you mainly get what you pay for. As expected, the old Samsung M3 HDD was the slowest. It took almost 200 seconds to read 50 gigabytes of data. The more modern Lacie Mini was slower than I expected. I do have to remind myself that it costs £28 per gigabyte, and it was about 27% faster than the Samsung. Not bad considering the price I paid. Next up, we have the SSD drives by Western Digital. I suspected they were identical inside, and this data strongly suggests that's true. The WD My Passport was slightly faster. I have a theory that's because the Sandisk is more rugged. The WD Passport has a metal body. That can dissipate heat more quickly. The extra shock-proof and waterproof padding inside the Sandisk probably makes it a little harder to get rid of heat, and that might slow it down a little. The Silicon Power device has an impressive read speed, and that's great, but it's the same price per terabyte as the WD Passport, and the WD Passport comes with a 3-year warranty. So, the Silicon Power is obviously third place in this test. And given the Sandisk costs 15% less than its rivals, I'd say the Sandisk has won this round. The main thing to note, however, is that the solid-state drives were about 3 times as fast as the hard disk drives. More important than the read speed is the write speed. This is a measure of how quickly you can copy data to these devices. And here's where the results get really interesting. The HDDs had similar read and write speeds. The Sandisk and WD Passport had similar read and write speeds as well. What really stands out, however, is the horrendous performance of the Silicon Power SSD. The fact it did worse than a 7-year-old Samsung is unbelievable. So unbelievable that I was sure I'd done something wrong. So I ran the test again, and again, and again, then using a different wire. Then I ran it again the next day. And what you see here is the best result I got. The worst result I got was 350 seconds. That's truly shocking. Almost 6 minutes to transfer 20 gigabytes of data to this hard drive. And keep in mind that this Silicon Power drive has the same cost per terabyte as the Western Digital device. I'm starting to doubt whether this is a genuine solid-state drive. Doing some simple maths, it seems that the Silicon Power has a write speed between 60 and 90 megabytes per second. That's about the same as a modern SD card. And my first thought on seeing this result was that I'd been conned. Maybe instead of an SSD drive, this black box has some cheaper type of memory installed. However, the super-fast read speed suggests it has an SSD drive inside. On the other hand, the shockingly bad speed for writing data tells me this is a poorly manufactured piece of crap. So, my consumer advice this week is as follows. Do not buy the Silicon Power SSD under any circumstances. If you can afford it, buy the Sandisk SSD. It's rugged and waterproof. It has a better price per terabyte than the WD Passport. On the other hand, if you're a travel vlogger with a tight budget, then the Lacie Rugged Mini is a good option. But keep in mind that it's quite heavy. Anyway, that's all for today. There are links in the description if you want to buy any of these devices that I've reviewed today. I hope you found this helpful. I'll be back with another video very soon. Later, nerds!